Ariel Helwani post-fight at UFC 131 alongside UFC President Dana White. And Dana, Junior Dos Santos, a huge win for him. He's now the #1 contender. Probably his most all-around best performance in the UFC. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, he looked great tonight. Obviously going up against a tough guy who hits hard and showed a lot of heart tonight.
What do you think about the first round? Do you think Herb Dean should have stopped the fight?
Obviously it went 3 rounds, so Herb Dean was right. And one of the things I love about Herb Dean, I think he's the best referee ever in the business. And a lot of these guys in there get scared. They get nervous, and the crowd or the fighters, or they feel like every time that guy's in the octagon, he's in charge. He's the boss. And Junior was looking at him going, come on, stop this fight. And Junior said it tonight. Said, I was saying it because I was tired. Right. You know, Herb Dean didn't. He said, I'll stop the fight when I think the fight is ready to be stopped. The fighters don't make those decisions, you know. And the other thing that happened tonight with Herb Dean was during the Nick Ring fight, when he had to break him up and have something looked at, he puts him down on the ground, and both fighters were arguing with Herb Dean over what position they were in. And Herb Dean said, no, this is the position you were in, and called it out. Most of the referees wouldn't even know what that position was called or what to do. I have nothing but respect for the guy. And just for the record, too, I don't know him. I don't hang out with him. We've never anything. I've said hi to him a few times. He's the best referee in the business.
A lot of talk about Shane Carwin's cardio going into this fight, that he lost all this weight. What do you think of his performance in the third round? It looked like he was getting a little tired.
Yeah, he was tired. He was beat up. You know, going into the third, I thought he was going to come out and go for broke. But the guy had taken. You have to understand, too, these heavyweights, they're in there. These guys throw bombs. I mean, these guys were both taking big shots, and I have nothing but respect for Shane Carwin and the performance that he put on tonight.
In the promos leading up to this event, it was almost, you guys were guaranteeing that someone was going to get knocked out. Obviously, that didn't happen. We talked to Junior. He said he played it safe because there was a lot on the line for him, and Carwin a little tired in the third. Overall, though, do you think the fight delivered?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great heavyweight matchup. I think if you asked 100 people in the business before that fight, if they thought it was going 3 rounds, 100 people would have told you no way.
I know you're interested in the gambling lines, and the odds makers have come out with their line for Kane versus JDS. JDS is the favorite going into that fight. Are you surprised?
That's interesting. That's
slight favorite.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, Junior Dos Santos said tonight, I'm going to work on my boxing. That's all I'm concerned with. And listen, I'm no trainer. I'm not anybody's, you know, corner man or anything, but Cain Velasquez is an animal, man. This guy punches, he kicks, he knees, he'll pick you up and slam you on the ground, overhead slam you on the ground, beat you up on the ground, has cardio for days, and is a finisher. This guy absolutely will not stop until he finishes you. And I don't know how you make him the underdog.
Looking at the calendar coming up, it would seem as though October 8th in Houston would be a great fight for Cain to come back to a Hispanic market. Now that you said that his recovery is going a little slower than you had originally thought, is that not a plan for him now? That will he have to fight maybe in October, late October or November?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but it all depends on his recovery and how he's doing in training. So we're gonna have to figure it out. But he's gonna fight in the next 5 months.
And Kenny Florian in the co-main event had a big win in his featherweight debut. And I asked him this question, I'll ask you this question. You know, you caused a bit of a stir when you said that he chokes in big fights after the Maynard loss. What do you think of what he did out there?
I thought he looked great tonight. What I said is he chokes in title fights. You know, the ones that really matter, the titles. And by choking, I mean Kenny Florian comes out and fights like he fought tonight. First time at 145 pounds, and Kenny Florian fights like he always does. But when he gets in these title fights, it's like he always comes up with these weird game plans. And he fights completely different than he normally fights. And, you know, call it choke, call it bad game plans, call it what you want, but it happens. So hopefully when he gets the next title shot, that doesn't happen to him.
A little surprised that you said that he's probably next for Aldo, only because Chad Mendes had that shot and Aldo got injured. What's the line of thinking there?
We'll see what happens.
So it's not definitive just yet?
Nothing is definitive.
What do you think of the judging overall? Omagawa, you said that you were giving him his win bonus, but there were a lot of 30-27s, which clearly did not look like 30-27s. What do you think of it?
I think it's horrendous. It's getting to the point now where, I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's one thing if you know, if you look at me and everybody's going, oh yeah, his business. Fans get pissed off, and I get pissed off because these guys are hurting the fighters. It screws up your record. It screws up your money. It screws up your legacy, everything. Guys getting losses that shouldn't have losses. You know, Bones Jones shouldn't have a loss on his record right now. And the list goes on. And that was a referee, not a. And I could go on for days what's wrong with the officiating in this thing. The guys tonight, and what's even scarier is we have TVs in front of these guys now. Maybe you couldn't see it before, maybe the lights, or you had a bad angle. You have a television in front of you now. Anybody the guys who did those 30-27s tonight should never score another fight again. I mean, you have to absolutely not know what you are doing to score that fight 30-27.
We hear you complain about these things after
nothing
fights.
I can do.
There's nothing. So you just go and say,
listen, I'm out here again. I'm talking to the athletic commission, the commission that oversees me and regulates me. Fix it. You
do you
know?
think the monitors work? Do you think they actually help?
Apparently not. Apparently they do not work at all. Apparently they don't. I figured if you had a hard time seeing the fight, because maybe you get a bad angle, maybe it was something in front of you, but you know how many bad angles you got to get to score some of those fights 30-27? And you had television monitors.
In the mid-90s, you remember in boxing, there were a bunch of bad decisions, and everyone was saying, this is fixed, this is bad. Are you ever afraid that we'll get to the point where fans start really catching on and saying, what's going on here?
That's what I was going to say to you. I mean, back in the day when we watched boxing, you know, you had these fights that are out there, and you'd go, fixed. This was a fix. They needed this guy to win, so they did this and that. I mean, if people think that this is fixed, and I'm not, when you fix fights, you don't run around bitching about it and pay the guys the money, more money than the, you know, Omagawa can say, hey, listen, judges said Omagawa lost. You know, it is what it is. I don't believe that. I veto, man. I don't think he lost. We're going to pay you your money, and we're going to treat you like you won.
Speaking of boxing, our friends over at FightHub.tv or FightHubTV.com, they had a video recently that they released talking to a bunch of boxing personalities, Gary Shaw, Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya, about the purchase of Strikeforce. And Bob Arum had something very interesting to say. He sort of, with a smile, wondered out loud whether or not the purchase of Strikeforce would violate some antitrust laws. And De La Hoya had his comments, and Shaw said it was bad for the fans. Did you see that video, and what do you think of it?
I don't think I've ever been happier that you've asked me a question in my life as I am that one. Number one, Gary Shaw's a moron, okay? First of all, this guy's going out and copying everything that I say. He's like, oh, they put on too many pay-per-views and they don't give any free fights. What the hell are you talking about, you moron? First of all, Gary Shaw, what did he do? He's done 3 fights this year. And when I say that, fights that he actually promoted himself, that were his actual fights, and all 3 of them were on Showtime. Showtime is not free. Okay, we've done 11 fights this year, and 4 of them were free on free television, actual free television, free cable. Okay, Gary, you idiot, you're so dumb. I can't even believe that I'm answering your questions, but or rebuttaling what you said. And then the other one, Bob Arum. Let me tell you what about Bob Arum. First of all, Bob Arum is copying. You go to a top rank fight now, they're copying everything we do, right? Now Bob Arum is also the guy who you know, he's out there crying antitrust, antitrust. Bob Arum, go back and look through the records in an interview that he did. He was laughing at the Fertittas for investing in this company. He was laughing at them, basically saying, they're idiots, they're losing oodles and oodles of money. Now you're crying antitrust, Bob? Bob, you weren't smart enough to do this. You weren't smart enough to do what we did to buy a company like this and basically change the fight industry forever. And now you're crying antitrust? You guys sound like a bunch of crybabies. And another one, Al Burnsten. I know Al Burnsten for a long time, and he's towing the company line, talking like, I don't know if this is good or whatever. Okay, Al, I see how it is.
Was this just, in your opinion, the boxing community and major players, they're feeling the heat, and we've had our issues with Bob Arum in the past, but with Bob saying that with a smile on his face, do you feel he's just trying to take a shot at you?
He's definitely taking a shot at us. And what's funny is every time these guys have fights, I pay for tickets to go to them. When they do their pay-per-views numbers, I'm like, good for them. I hope they do 2 million buys, you know what I mean? But if you look throughout the history of boxing, these guys have been crybabies. You know, they've always been crybabies. They're the biggest bunch of babies you've ever met. Bob Arum, the guy who was saying, oh, the Fertittas are idiots, they're losing, I quote, oodles of money in this thing. Now he's crying antitrust, and he's copying everything we do. You weren't smart enough to do it, Bob. That's your fault.
And just to be clear, there have been people in the boxing world who have brought this up in the past, not just Bob. Has anyone from the government even approached you after the purchase of Strikeforce?
And just to let you know, De La Hoya didn't say anything bad. De La Hoya just said, listen, they're 2 different animals and whatever, so nothing on De La Hoya.
Right. How about that question? Has anyone even approached you with this? Someone who can actually, investigate this kind of thing. It's only been boxing people that have brought this up in the past. Anyone from the government ever looked into?
I don't think it's just boxing people. I think people are out there poking around. Let me tell you what. There's a lot of people, because this thing has been so successful. There's a lot of people out there who come after us and are taking shots at us. And the reality is, we took something that was absolutely dead and turned it around and turned it into this. And it was done by investing a ton of money, and the Fertitas actually having the balls to do it and to stay behind this thing when it didn't look like it was going to turn around. And all these people now that are taking shots at us and coming after us and doing what they're doing are the people who were laughing at us 9, 10 years ago. We're the best at what we do. We've changed the fight business forever. We've revolutionized it. And, all these other guys that weren't smart enough to do it and didn't see it want to cry about it now.
Okay, and one last thing. Speaking of boxing, Floyd Mayweather announced that he's coming back in September. We don't know where that fight is taking place, but are you looking at that situation very closely, considering what you said about Chael Sonnen and all the issues he has received from Nevada and California, and them talking about his past? Look at what Floyd has done over the past year and some of his issues. Do you think that if he gets licensed, there's a bit of a double standard being shown here?
There's a zillion% a double standard being shown there, and I'm not watching it closely. I know exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean? These regulators who claim that everything is fair, Floyd Mayweather was running around sucker punching everybody in the face, the threat to his wife and his kids and all the things that happen. Watch how fast these regulators, well, I don't care if it's in Nevada, California, or wherever it is, watch how fast they give Floyd Mayweather a license.
Thanks for the time, Dana.
Thanks.